As a combat veteran of Operation Enduring Freedom, he's provided close air support and rescue escort to joint American forces and coalition troops on the ground in Afghanistan. As an A-10 instructor pilot and flight commander, Brian has been and continues to be responsible for the lives, skills, and success of hundreds of combat pilots, and he's been a proud member of 6 fighter squadrons in his career. He currently leads and instructs new A-10 pilots.
The A-10 was going to get phased out of service in the late 80s, early 90s, and then the Gulf War kicked off, and we drove Saddam out of Kuwait back into Iraq, and the A-10 just did yeoman's work over there, and it just really proved its worth. And so the nature of the A-10, it's an attack aircraft, and so we say is every little boy wants to grow up to be a fighter pilot, every fighter pilot wants to grow up to be an attack pilot. That's how serious we take our business, and it is doing the work on the ground, it's supporting the troops on the ground, it is real life, you are targeting bad guys and bad vehicles. The cockpit is wrapped up to the canopy, of course, in titanium, and so it
can survive a 23-millimeter shell hit.
The titanium can resolve more than that. The 23-millimeter, that's for the front. That's the glass on the front. Yeah, that can absorb a 23-millimeter shot. So it's brutal. It's meant to take a beating and keep on beating up everything else.
You fire that. That holds about, what, 1,300 or 1,400
rounds?
It
holds 1,174 rounds.
And I've seen a picture of the gun out of the airplane.
Oh, it's huge.
And it's about the identical size to a Volkswagen.
It's pretty close, yeah.
Yeah,
well,
a Volkswagen.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, here's the amazing thing about the gun that always gets me. Each barrel, there are 7 barrels in that gun. Each barrel weighs 70 pounds. So the barrels themselves weigh almost 500 pounds. You add what's holding the barrels together, the contraption just from the end of the gun to the tip of the barrels, over 500 pounds. You add the gun itself. It's a massive, massive contraption. In that first second, it spits out almost 60 rounds. It's unbelievable that it can spin up that fast. That's the system, those GE engineers back in the 60s and early 70s that designed that. That is a marvel of engineering. And then you get to the way that those rounds are stored inside the drum, and they're stored in a double helix. And I wouldn't even begin to try to explain it, but if you watch the system of how those rounds are cycled through, and realize that at full speed that gun's shooting 69 rounds a second. That means each barrel is putting 10 rounds through it every 10 seconds, and that's a big round, and it's amazing. That depleted uranium core hits that can actually, there's a term called spallation, and what it means is it just really goes right through the armor.
It actually almost turns into a liquid, doesn't it?
Well,
or does
it has so much kinetic energy that it sort of melts the armor around it, and it ends up getting inside the tank itself. And that is, the truth is, you can kill a tank with, no kidding, 1 bullet if you hit it right. And because the amount of energy that depleted uranium round enters the cabin of the tank with, it'll heat up the inside of it to 1,000 degrees or so, and it'll pop the turret off, and of course everybody inside will be dead.
Someday an order comes down that says you turn that GAU-8 on an American citizen because he won't give up his guns.
Not a chance.
What are you going to say?
Wouldn't do it. My oath is to support and defend the Constitution of the United States, and it's not to obey any officer above me. As a matter of fact, it's not even to obey the President. It's to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. And the Constitution of the United States gives an unequivocal right to keep and bear arms, and it's a combined right. It is not just collective, and it is not just individual. It is both. Because the founders, one of their greatest fears was a standing army, and that's why they included the collective right. And they knew that it come from the individual, and that Second Amendment includes both of those rights.